Hey, you may be under the greatest attack you've ever been under. You may be facing the biggest battle you've ever faced. Let me explain to you why you're going through what you're going through. Satan always attacks those next in line for a promotion. I want to teach you how to fight for your dreams and win. Hey, I'm Terri Savelle, and you're watching Live Your Dreams. I pray that as you invest in yourself today, you're captivated and you're catapulted to live your dreams. In fact, I want to talk to you about resurrecting your dream. Literally, how to fight for your dreams. You know, we all have things that we're believing for, that we're praying about, that deep down inside we know it's a part of our destiny. But then we get the opposition. We have setbacks and disappointments and frustrations. Maybe we didn't get the breakthrough we were praying for. Or we're believing God for a baby and another month goes by and we don't get pregnant. Or we didn't get a promotion or a raise or a scholarship or whatever it is. Maybe it's a struggle with your weight and all these months are going by and you're not losing the weight. You're not getting the diagnosis you want. Life has a way of burying our dreams. But I want you to know that just because it looks hopeless doesn't mean it is hopeless. We serve the God of hope, but you have to fight for your dreams. You have to fight for what God has placed in your heart. And never, never, never throw in the towel. You know, in the sport of boxing, they have that phrase, when a fighter has had enough, they throw in the towel. Well, that literally means to give up the struggle, to quit the fight. Somebody once said, it's always too soon to give up. Well, don't ever give Satan the satisfaction of seeing you quit the fight, to throw in the towel. Fight the good fight of faith and determine that you're going to finish strong. And here's what I want you to stay focused on. I opened the broadcast with this, and I think it'll help you understand why you're going through what you're going through. I know it does me. Listen to this phrase. Satan always attacks those next in line for a promotion. I'm going to repeat that. Satan always attacks those next in line for a promotion. In fact, I taught this message on fighting for your dreams and actually preached it in a boxing ring at our Icing Women's event. And what I did was I was paralleling what happens with boxers before they ever get in the ring with what happens to us when we get in the ring with our enemy to fight for our dreams. And I use this little acronym that spells the word TRAIN, T-R-A-I-N. In other words, before a boxer ever places one foot in that ring, he has to do some things. He has to train. Well, the T stood for train with a good coach. In other words, who's speaking into your life? Because who's speaking into your life is vital to your success. The R stood for it requires intense focus. You've heard that phrase, the only reason men fail is broken focus. And then the A stands for always be aware of your weaknesses. You know, your opponent, the devil, he's studying your weaknesses, just like boxers study each other. The I stood for intimidate your opponent. And I'm going to explain each one. But in other words, the most powerful tool that you have to intimidate the devil is right here. It's the words of your mouth. And then, of course, the N stood for never throw in the towel. It's always too soon to give up. Well, in my own life, I remember in September of 2014, I launched out to pursue a dream. Now, I had worked for my dad, Jerry Savelle, for 22 years. For 11 years, I was his ghostwriter. I wrote his books and magazine articles and all that. And then for 11 years, I was the CEO for Jerry Savelle Ministries. Well, when I launched out, I gave up a lot of security. I gave up the salary, the benefits, the insurance, the retirement, the security, the little nest that I was in. And I'm telling you, I have never cried so much in my life, not because I was giving all that up, but because I loved serving my dad, and I did not want to quit doing that. I loved serving his ministry, but I knew God spoke to me and said it was time to leave the nest. Like he literally told me, fly, Terri, fly. It's time to leave the nest. Well, my thought was, I like the nest. And you know, you would think that since I'm obeying God, I don't even want to leave. I'm crying more than I ever have in my life, but I'm following God's footsteps, his plan for my life. Wouldn't you think that God would just part the Red Sea and just let me walk on by? No, all hell came against me the moment I said, I'm going to the other side. I'm going to fight for this dream. I mean, major things, like everything from a lawsuit against my husband's company, from a very famous company, like you would recognize them. We had no idea what it was going to be. Then all of a sudden, the IRS sends us a bill for thousands of dollars just out of nowhere. We already paid our taxes. And this bill shows up in our mailbox right when I'm leaving my nest. Then our house wouldn't sell. You know, we're moving an hour and a half away to open offices near Dallas. My team, they put their houses on the market. Instantly, they sold, they moved, they got settled in. Not mine, for 7 months. Well, for 7 months, I had to do something to get my daughter in the school district she needed to go to, this new one. So she and I had to go live in a hotel, and it wasn't the Four Seasons. We went and lived in a hotel for 3 months while she's starting her senior year. Now think about it. I left all that security, my income went down, my expenses just went up. Imagine living in a hotel for 3 months. So every single night, and you're eating out breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Then all of a sudden, during this season of hell, I went to the doctor. I was actually getting makeup done for TV. The girl who does my makeup, she said, Terri, there's something on your face right here, and it's been there for a while. So I went to a dermatologist just to see, what is this little scab right here? Well, the doctor told me I had skin cancer. She said, you have skin cancer on your face, and we need to do a little procedure, have surgery right here. So I had stitches all the way down my face. I had it on my back, and they put stitches back there, did a little procedure. But then she said, your entire chest is covered in skin cancer. She said, we can't do surgery on that. You're going to have to take this chemo cream, this treatment, and it's going to bring all of that cancerous stuff to the surface. And she said, it's going to look really bad, but this is what we got to do to deal with it. Well, what do when your house won't sell for 7 months? You're living in a hotel with no offers on our house. My daughter's coming back to the hotel in tears at times, you know, in a new city, in a new school, and no friends yet, and we're in a hotel. I'm looking in the mirror wanting to cry when I would look at my skin, because I'm talking from shoulder to shoulder and here up, it turned to this disgusting, it looked like raw hamburger meat. And I'm the one who messed everything up. Everything was fine before I decided to go for my dream. Well, when you're in a fight for your dreams, you have to do what a boxer does before he ever gets in the ring with his opponent. The T, I told you, it stands for train with a good coach. In other words, you've got to have somebody speaking into your life, speaking life, hope, vision, encouragement, faith. Because here's the thing. What you repeatedly hear, you eventually believe. You know, the Bible says that faith comes by hearing. Well, you're either full of faith or full of fear. And so whatever you're the fullest of, that reveals what you're listening to the most. Well, I had to feed my faith and I had to starve my fears. How do you do that? Well, you know, the Bible tells us that faith comes by hearing. So every time you push play, you get full of the Word of God. And I want to challenge you, if you're going through anything close to like what I was going through, become obsessed with hearing God's Word. I mean, look for opportunities to make those deposits like you're doing right now. When you're doing laundry, when you're cleaning, when you're loading the dishwasher, when you're at the gym, when you're making beds, when you're driving to work, look for opportunities to build your faith. In fact, I remember during that season, Joel Osteen became my coach during that time because he's such a man of hope. And I would hear things like, God is not withholding good from you. What you're going through is no surprise to God. He knows exactly what he's doing. And those words would bring such peace to me. I would hear him say things like, your breakthrough is just around the corner. You're not a victim. You're a victor. You're going to make it. And you're going to come out stronger than before. And just hearing those phrases was like a shot of faith in my spirit. So you got to train. You got to have a coach speaking into your life. And then I said the R stands for it requires intense focus, especially when the people closest to you are saying things contrary to your dream. You know, for me, people were saying, why do you have to move? I mean, why can't you just open offices in the same city? Why? Your daughter, she's in tears. Well, you've got to stay focused on the words that the Lord has spoken to you. I had to get those words out and stay focused on those because Satan is going to try to get you to break your focus. My other point was to always be aware of your weaknesses. Now, in boxing, those boxers, they study each other. They're looking for weaknesses. And when they find a weakness, you can count on it. That's exactly where they're going to pound them over and over until what? They fall. Well, you have an opponent named Satan who's watching you, observing you. He's noting weaknesses in your life. And if you're fighting for your marriage, your weight, your finances, I'm telling you, he's looking for temptation to get you to go back, to say, forget it. This isn't working. I must have missed God. No, you got to stay focused. You need to know your weaknesses because the devil knows them. And then the other one was to intimidate your opponent. Well, I think it's kind of funny how boxers, they intimidate each other with their words before they ever take a swing. Well, do you know that your words are the most powerful tool that you have? Think about in boxing. I think Muhammad Ali was like the master at this. You remember how he had that little poem, or he'd say, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. The hands can't hit what the eyes can't see. Well, you intimidate the devil with the words of your mouth. And I remember for me, I would look at my chest with that skin cancer, and I would have to purposely look in the mirror and say, I am not moved by what I see. I am moved by what I believe, and I believe the Word of God. And I declare that my skin is more beautiful today than it's ever been. I would say, Lord, I thank you that you are working behind the scenes in our lives. You're closing the wrong doors, and you're opening the right ones to show us your favor. I'd say things like, Lord, I thank you that you're restoring the finances that have been stolen from us. All this money we're wasting on a hotel, you're restoring it. And then, like I said, the N, it stands for never, never, never throw in the towel. Your job is to outlast the devil. It's always too soon to give up. And just in my case, let me just tell you how this story ended. And I wish somebody would have given me a copy of this message back then so I could hang on to it. But do you know 7 months of our house being on the market with nothing, not one offer, and 11 weeks of living in a hotel, in one day, and let me just tell you what a difference 24 hours can make. In one day, we received not just one offer on our house, but 2 offers on the same day. They got into this bidding war, and the house went up $30,000 in one day. And I might add this, the IRS, who said we owed all this money, they contacted us and said we made a mistake by $10,000. I said, I'll take it. The lawsuit against my husband's company, they settled for $10,000. We didn't know what it was going to be, but we said, okay, we'll take that too. Then one day we go to the mailbox, we open up this letter from a gas company who said, we found gas on your property years ago and we failed to pay you. The check was for $53,000. Remember, I was declaring God's restoring out all the finances that have been stolen. And I might add this, I am standing here today completely healed of skin cancer. So I want to challenge you today. Warfare always surrounds the birth of a miracle. Satan always attacks those next in line for a promotion. Fight for your dreams.
God has given you dreams to achieve, but how do you know if you have the right dream? And what do you do when times get tough? With Terri's newest resource offer, you'll gain confidence in knowing you've heard from God and discover how to overcome any setbacks. As you listen to the 7 indicators you have a dream from God, you'll put an end to worry and confusion and start walking in your destiny. Fight for Your Dreams will give you the hope and motivation needed to walk out your dreams victoriously. Plus, for a limited time, we'll also send you this boxing glove as a convenient reminder to keep fighting for the dreams God puts in your heart. Don't delay. Request this special package offer today. Put an end to the frustration and begin to see real progress. Call or go online now and request your copy of the Fight for Your Dreams CD bundle, including the bonus boxing glove. Call toll-free 888-844-7933 or visit us online at terri.com.
Hey, welcome back. We're talking about how to fight for your dreams. Remember, it's always too soon to give up. In fact, I heard this African parable. It said, every morning in Africa, a gazelle wakes up, and it knows that it must run faster than the fastest lion or it will be killed. Every morning in Africa, a lion wakes up, and it knows that it must outrun the slowest gazelle or it will starve to death. It said it doesn't matter whether you're the lion or the gazelle. When the sun comes up, you better be running. Well, I want you to realize that you have an enemy named Satan who doesn't just roll over and play dead because you have a dream. In fact, he will do everything he can to get you to lose your vision, to stay down, defeated, deflated, and unusable. In fact, anybody you see who's achieved great things, they've had to learn to fight. In fact, I recently heard this story about the actress Janine Turner. She said that from the time she was 15 to 27 years old, she auditioned for movies, sitcoms, commercials, on average 4 times a day. That's 12 years. She said she only got limited roles, small commercials. She said she actually added it up, and she estimates that she received at least 1,000 rejections during that time. But you know what? She had to learn to fight, didn't she? When she got down to $8 in her checking account, she got a call from a producer saying, "We think you're the right one for this part." It was a TV series called Northern Exposure, and it absolutely changed her destiny. Well, my point is, Satan may have tried to defeat you by saying, you're not qualified, you've got the wrong dream. Who do you think you are? But keep in mind, when you feel like giving up the most and you're down to $8 in your checking account, that's always an indication your breakthrough is just about to happen. And you might even ask, why does it have to be so hard? Well, I heard this story about researchers who took bumblebees up in space to study weightlessness on them. They said these bumblebees were just flying around with such ease, no pressure, no worries, no stress, no exertion. And I'm sure they thought we were made to live like this. Well, all of a sudden on the 4th day, they all died. Well, the researchers concluded this: they weren't designed to live without resistance. And you know what? Neither were you. The resistance that you're facing, it prepares you, it strengthens you, it enables you to go to the next level. And here's the thing, nobody ever goes from one plateau to another plateau to another plateau. In fact, even when shepherds, when they lead their sheep, they don't go from mountaintop to mountaintop to mountaintop. They actually go through the valley to get to the next mountaintop. And I don't like the valley either. But you know what? The valley is where you get prepared to make it to the mountaintop, to live on the mountaintop. Well, in fact, I heard a story about Steve Jobs, obviously, founder of Apple Computers. He said at 21 years old, he founded Apple Computer. Well, by 23 years old, he was incredibly successful, known all over the world. Well, 7 years later, after he developed this global brand and so many amazing products, he said he clashed with his board of directors and was fired from the company he started. He told his friends, he felt betrayed, he felt wronged. But here's the thing. Instead of sitting around in self-pity and, feeling sorry for himself, he said he went out and he learned some new skills and he started another company. Well, this company had something that Apple really needed, and it was so successful that Apple purchased the company and brought him back as the CEO. This is what Steve Jobs said. He said, "If I hadn't been fired, I would have never learned these new skills that have made me into who I am." In other words, he learned to bounce back from adversity. He learned to fight for his dreams. So I want to share with you the 3 common excuses that can cause you to lose your fight. And let's get readjusted here. Number 1 is that it's too hard. In other words, I thought it would be a little bit easier. Things didn't happen, the way we counted on them happening. Things like a divorce, losing a baby, tragedy, diagnosed with something we didn't see coming, losing a job, being betrayed by someone we love, losing money. See, we have to get to this place where we say, this is no surprise to God. He knew I could handle this. I'm going to grow from it, and I'm going to come out stronger than ever before. In fact, God said in His Word, in Isaiah, it says, "I will strengthen you and harden you to difficulty." In other words, when it seems too hard, learn to fight back. Make this situation backfire on the devil. So number 1 is it's too hard. Number 2 is it's taking too long. In other words, we don't see the results we want to see quick enough. We thought it would be a little bit easier. Well, the truth is we want to win the lottery and be instantly rich. We want to take a diet pill and be instantly skinny. But the truth is there's no shortcut to excellence. We can't fast track it. And of course, in our society today, everything's microwave. You know, it's shake and bake, instant rice, soup in a cup. I mean, even my peanut butter is called Jif because we want everything in a Jif, don't we? Well, when it comes to fighting for your dreams, you have to take the microwave approach where you just realize, you know what? I can't speed this up, and God's timing is always right. I can't trade my deadline for God's timing. He knows what he's doing. I just have to be patient. In fact, I love this story I heard about Catherine Stockett. She said it took her 5 years to get her book published. Now think about that. 5 years to get one book published. She said she stopped counting after her 45th rejection letter. In fact, one of the letters that she got, this is what it said. It said, there's no market for this kind of tiring writing. Well, she kept working on her novel. She said even when she gave birth in the hospital, she went back to writing in the hospital. Well, her hard work and determination, it paid off so much that you might recognize this memorable speech from her novel. You is smart, you is kind, and you is important. That's from Catherine Stockett's book called The Help. Well, you know, her book spent over 30 weeks on the New York Times bestsellers list, and of course it was made into a major motion picture. So again, don't trade your deadline for God's timing. God's timing is always right. In fact, the Bible actually says in Habakkuk 2:3, it says the vision is for a future time. It will be fulfilled. And then it says this, if it seems slow in coming, wait patiently, for it will surely take place. It will not be delayed. So no matter how long it takes, keep fighting. And then the third common excuse that we just tend to make is there's just too much opposition. Too much opposition coming against me, and that can cause us to just be full of excuses as to why we can't achieve our dreams or why we can't see this faith project fulfilled. In fact, I've mentioned a man named Jim Rohn many times. He was a great motivator, and he's since gone on to be with the Lord, but he said back when he had pennies in his pocket, nothing in the bank, creditors are calling, he said, I was so full of excuses. I blamed everybody for why I was where I was. But all of a sudden, he met this very wealthy man who was so nice to him. He said he just began to kind of take me under his wing and mentor me. But this wealthy man said this to him. He said, Jim, out of curiosity, how come you haven't done well up to now? Jim said he pulled out his list of excuses, figuratively speaking, and he said, these are the reasons I haven't succeeded. The economy, the taxes, the government, my lack of training, lack of education, my negative relatives, my boss. I mean, he just went down the list. Well, all of a sudden, this wealthy man said to him, how come you ain't on the list? And his mentor began to tell him things. Like he said, Jim, if you want the future to change, you've got to change. He said, if you don't change, the next 4 years will be exactly the same. But if you change, everything will change for you. If you get better, everything will get better for you. Well, he said, I tore that list up. I made a new list, and this is what it said, me. And of course, he became a multimillionaire and a motivational speaker to hundreds of thousands around the world. Well, I remember when I was coming through the hardest time I've ever been through in my life, I heard Joyce Meyer make this statement. She said, God will change your circumstances, but he'll change you first. So I want you to take hold of those words and realize that what you're going through, it's no surprise to God. He's working on you. He's strengthening you. He's preparing you just like those bees. The resistance you're facing, it's making you stronger than ever before. So I am so excited about our resources. This is the first time we put these two together to offer this to you. And this is a message I actually taught in a boxing ring called Fight for Your Dreams. And I'm believing with this message, this is going to fix the battle in your mind once and for all. That's what I'm believing for you, that you're going to become more determined than ever to prepare for your destiny, because preparation time is never wasted time. And God wants you to get ready to train before you get in the ring. Why? Because you have something the world needs. You have a calling. You have an assignment, and God needs you to fulfill it. So I share from my personal experience how to get ready for the dreams in your heart. I share real results of the benefit of fighting for your dreams, the secret of staying focused, having the right people in your corner cheering you on. And then also, This is a message called The 7 Indicators You Have a Dream from God. I know you want that assurance that you've heard from God because I know I did. And as you listen to each of the 7 indicators, you're going to get that confidence that you definitely have the right dream. And when you get that confidence, you're going to gain advantage over the enemy. You're going to say goodbye to doubt, confusion, fear by wondering, is this dream something I made up in my head, or is it definitely God-inspired? And once you get that assurance, you can start pouring yourself into it. And I got this amazing message straight from my dad's notebook. I stole it with his permission. And then I taught from my own experience. But you're going to be so encouraged by the stories of familiar people you'll probably recognize because they've been through what you're probably going through right now. They had the doubts, the setbacks, the fears, but they didn't let it stop them. So once you hear this message, I believe you're going to avoid wasting time and years pursuing the wrong dreams and never worry again whether or not you've heard from God. And then with this package, we want to give you for free this little boxing glove reminder to keep you focused, driven, ambitious, and determined to fight for your dreams. So just imagine getting settled once and for all in your heart that your dream is not just a good idea, it's a God idea. God gave you this desire, and He wants you to go after it. Imagining developing the mindset of a winner who trains and prepares to succeed on purpose. So it's simple to order this. Call the number on the screen or go online, and we will send it out immediately. And let me just tell you, I always like to close out the broadcast by just reminding you, stop looking at all the years you've lost. Let's look at the years you've got left and start living your dreams. So I'm cheering you on. And ladies, we want to invite you to the Icing Women's Conference. You got to register. It's free, but we got to save your seat and your treat. So be sure and register. I'd love to see you there. Thank you for watching.
God has given you dreams to achieve, but how do you know if you have the right dream? And what do you do when times get tough? With Terri's newest resource offer, you'll gain confidence in knowing you've heard from God and discover how to overcome any setbacks. As you listen to the 7 indicators you have a dream from God, you'll put an end to worry and confusion and start walking in your destiny. Fight for your dreams will give you the hope and motivation needed to walk out your dreams victoriously. Plus, for a limited time, we'll also send you this boxing glove as a convenient reminder to keep fighting for the dreams God puts in your heart. Don't delay. Request this special package offer today. Put an end to the frustration and begin to see real progress. Call or go online now and request your copy of the Fight for Your Dreams CD bundle, including the bonus boxing glove. Call toll-free 888-844-7933 or visit us online at terri.com.
I think it's one thing to have a plan, to have a dream for your life, but when you discover God's plan, that's the icing on the cake.
This is more than a women's conference. It is a 2-day event that can propel you into your destiny. Start planning now to join Terri, Savelle Foy, and thousands of inspiring women from around the world at Icing 2017. Don't miss out on this life-changing weekend filled with empowering, purpose-driven worship, teaching, and fellowship. Besides, who doesn't love free cupcakes? We'll see you at Icing 2017, October 13th and 14th at the Will Rogers Coliseum in Fort Worth, Texas. For more information and to register, visit us at terri.com. Don't hesitate. Register today.